Welcome back, everybody. This is Toby Brockner from the V Squared Creative Podcast. Joining me today is Calley Anne Haws from FlareNet. Calley, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
And when I say us, I mean me, since there's only one of me here. So, Calley, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where your background, a little bit, that kind of a thing.
Okay. I've actually lived in the Idaho area almost all my life. I can't claim to be a native because I was born in another state, but we won't tell anybody about that. And graduated from Boise State University because I love the area so much. I actually started there with the intention of becoming an architect, and in the process started competing in pageants in order to earn some money to pay for school. And while doing pageants, I learned that I really enjoyed public relations. It really excited me. I just had so much fun making appearances. I was Miss Boise for 2 separate years, and then also held the title of Miss Idaho USA towards the end of my college career. And during that time, it wasn't just a hobby for me. It was something where I got a chance to really test what I wanted to do with my life. And as such, when I was Miss Boise, I was the first Miss Boise to even consider creating a web page. It was, why would anybody want to do that? It was so strange. But it was a way for me to let people know who I was, and Boise being one of the biggest areas, I felt that was necessary. And then when I was Miss Idaho USA, I created basically a press kit for myself, all by myself. No help from the directors. I would love to say that Idaho is one of those great pageant states, but we aren't. And it told people who I was, what I was available to do, why I wanted to come to their city. And it went out to every single city. I think it was about 200 packets I sent out. And it got me appearances that no other previous Miss Idaho USA had. And it made that more memorable for me. So and I realized that that's what I wanted to do.
What time period are we talking, without dating yourself too much if you don't want to, but when you built that website for yourself as Miss Boise, what time frame are we talking about?
I will date myself. That the first website was actually 93.
93. So yeah, but I mean, you were way ahead of the curve.
Yes, absolutely. I honestly, even businesses, for most businesses,
that's what I mean.
It was still really a very new thing.
Yeah, not even contestants, businesses in general didn't really start building sites until 96, 97, 98, whatever.
Right.
So I wish we could see that original site you built. It'd be interesting.
I have it, but it's in hiding.
It would be interesting to see how that has evolved over the years. But so what did you put on that site? What kind of things were you doing?
Well, again, the whole purpose of a website is it's kind of that elevator speech that they tell us that we all need to have. And I wanted it to be something so that without meeting me, people knew what type of a person I was and whether or not they were going to want me at their event. And so very brief history, kind of how I introduced myself to you, as well as why you might want to meet me. What I can do. I can come into your school. I can come and talk about community service. I can talk about fitness. I can talk about a wide variety of things. And I would bullet point it for them so that they could go ahead and see a snapshot of who I was without having to get in touch with me.
Good deal. That's awesome. I think, that's kind of a trend we're seeing now more and more, where individuals even within larger brands are starting to create their own personal brand under the umbrella of that larger organization. One guy that comes to mind, his name is Matt Cutts. He's in the search engine optimization world. He works at Google. Anybody who is anybody in the search engine optimization world knows Matt Cutts, but he's built his own personal brand under that Google umbrella. So that was actually very forward thinking on your part to do that personal brand. So you were doing the Miss Idaho, the Miss Boise, Miss Idaho stuff, and your career kind of evolved from there. Where did you go from there?
It did. The first career that I had outside of Boise State was at Idaho Ice World. And it was really interesting. They hired me to do what they thought would be a couple-month-long project of data entry and basic administrative work, and I got it done in 2 weeks. So they found themselves trying to figure out what else I could do. And I actually worked for both Boise Factory Outlets and Idaho Ice World at the same time. We were just getting ready to build the big facility that's there now. And slowly but surely, I basically became their marketing director. I helped them create the logo for the facility, helped lay out the facility, choose the colors for the inside of the building to help attract the right type of clientele. It was a really fun job, actually.
Good deal. So did you find that your experience as Miss Boise or Miss Ida, did any of that translate over to kind of what you were doing in the marketing side?
Oh, absolutely. We hadn't had a skating facility here in the valley for so long that people really needed to have a reason, especially to go way out to the factory outlets where they are.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I tried to do was, again, turn it into community. It needed to be a community facility, especially in Idaho. I cannot emphasize that to people enough. The bigger that we get, it does not change our environment. We are all about people. We are all about the community feeling. And so I took that into that business and held events where the media was there, the kids were there, the parents were there, things that got people talking once they went back to their everyday lives. And being part of pageants and being in those types of events, that really did play into that type of a business.
Was it fun for you to do that?
Oh, it was. I think probably one of the cutest things I've ever seen is a 4-year-old in a hockey uniform that they can hardly move in. But I love helping a business, especially a new business to the valley, really see how far they can take it. To me, that's the biggest challenge in the world is to see if you can be talked about in a great way, to see if you can also give back to the community as well. I have a lot of love for Boise, and I want to see the businesses that are here really give back as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself. There's a real, Boise's hitting all kinds of top 10 lists right now. Idaho's hitting all kinds of top 10 lists, best places to live and raise a family, start a business, that kind of a thing. But the reason I like, and I'm not from here either, I actually grew up in Louisiana, but the reason I like Boise is because it's always had that feeling of being big enough to have access to a lot of different things, but not so big that you lose that kind of small town community feel.
Absolutely. I don't want to say that we gossip, but if something happens in a business, I guarantee a lot of people are going to know about it fairly quickly. And it's not just because of social media. People still talk in this town. But boy, if you're doing your job and you're doing it well, the same thing can happen. And a lot of people start talking about you fairly quickly, and they want to see you do well. So they tend to support you if you're that type of community person.
Yeah, absolutely. So from Idaho Ice World, how did your career go from there?
Actually, right after that, I was with Barton Homes. And same thing, he was big by the time that I got there. They needed somebody to help with the marketing, but he had never really done an advertising campaign up to that point. Little advertising here in Thrifty Nickel, a little bit here in the Idaho Statesman, and no cohesiveness. And I was able to take my marketing experience and say, look, you have this amazing reputation. People obviously know you have a great product, but now you really need to brand yourself. People need to know who Barton Homes is, what you're about, and continue to build. At some point, just that speed that you've gotten from being a great home builder and everybody wanting to buy homes right now is going to slow down. What's going to help you keep that speed and that cohesiveness, that actual branding of his business was really important at that time. So that was something that I was involved with, was creating some of his first actual advertising campaigns.
And I found a lot of small business owners, when they make that leap from, kind of a micro type of a business where it's maybe the business owner and a couple of employees, and they kind of move into that next stratosphere of medium size where they've got 15, 20, 30 employees. They've hired a bunch of people. If they don't have a real congruent set of brand standards, you start getting a real confusing message because everybody is kind of pushing stuff out on their own. Like you said, there's no cohesiveness, there's no congruency to any of it. We have a meeting with a potential client tomorrow that's what is happening to them. They've got 5 different people in the office creating content for them. but it all looks different, it feels different, it sounds different because they don't have a cohesive set of brand standards. And I think that's really it's a very underutilized strategy for companies.
Well, there's a couple of problems with that. One is not only that that's the message that you're communicating to people,
Mm-hmm.
is, somebody might like that ad, but they don't like this ad, and how do they know whether or not they really like your business? But that can also be a huge waste of money. There's no way to track that advertising. If you're able to come up with a plan and have it be a package instead of bits and pieces, then you're actually able to say, this is working well, this isn't working well. It also helps you better identify who your actual clientele is.
Yeah.
If you have 5 different types of ads, you're probably going to get 4 or 5 different types of people coming into your business as well.
Yeah, and that may not be the best thing if they're not the right type of customer. The only company I've really seen that does this well, and the only reason I think they do it well is because they have deep pockets, is Geico Insurance. They're the only ones that can really pull off that strategy of just being completely incongruent across a bunch of different advertising platforms. They've got the caveman, the little lizard guy, the gecko. They've done all kinds of crazy stuff.
Very true. But I think even at that, you still kind of recognize that humor element that they have.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the only reason they can do it is because they do it so consistently.
Right.
That it sinks in. If a small business tried to do it, they just don't have the pockets deep enough to pull that off. So you went from Corey Barton Homes to where
to Bodily RV.
Bodily
Bodily RV at the time, again, a great little mom and pop business. Now they were doing very well. They were in the private 75 of Idaho. But they, again, not a huge corporation. They kind of the same thing, did their advertising. The sales manager put it together because that was the easiest person. They were so family oriented that they didn't like bringing other people into the fold. I felt like I had to be adopted practically to get hired into their company because they wanted somebody that had the same beliefs, that had the same goals and objectives in order to do their marketing, which was great. Again, I love that feeling. But they would just kind of throw money to the wind when it came to their advertising because that wasn't their specialty. They didn't know what they were doing, and they needed somebody that both fit into their little family but still had the knowledge to really help them get where they needed to go.
So what kind of marketing programs would you pull together to get people onto a lot like that, a destination kind of a location? There are a lot of businesses around here, especially in Idaho. ATVs, they sell higher ticket boats, higher ticket items. What were some of the more successful campaigns you saw?
Well, especially when you're talking automotive, ATV, it's still very similar to housing in that it's an emotional purchase.
Mm-hmm.
People don't care how much they're spending if they really feel like they're getting the boat of their dreams or the house of their dreams or even the RV of their dreams. And you have to be able to not only prove that your pricing is competitive. You don't want to be so far above and say, well, that's because we're awesome and we deserve to price higher. And you don't necessarily want to undersell either because then people kind of start seeing you as cheap. Mm-hmm. And that's not what you want. So you have to be able to combine that price point and still really attach that emotion to the purchase so that people are committed to what they're doing. It had to be, this is what I want as part of my life, not this is just my next purchase for the week.
Yeah, those lifestyle purchases. I mean, even when you're comparing, say, an RV or a boat to a home, the real big difference is you have to live somewhere. You don't have to have a boat necessarily, and
right.
That makes it a little bit tougher. And so I think you're right. That messaging really comes into play of making those emotional hooks, and that's where if you don't have a good copywriter on staff, I think that's a really huge skill that a lot of business owners can learn is to write really good copy. And even if you're not going to write good copy, or write copy yourself, I think business owners need to know what good copy looks like so that when they do hire a copywriter, they can tell whether it's going to be good copy or not.
When I was in school, my mom was an English teacher, and she was very particular about reports that I would put together, and she wanted me to let her read it and let a friend read it and other people. And I never understood it at the time, but when I got into marketing, I understood everybody interprets what they hear or what they read differently. And you may think that you have a phenomenal message, and you may think that it's being sent out that way, but just a few change of words can completely change that message. And if it isn't a specialty of yours, I cannot overemphasize, please let somebody else take a look at what you're doing. If it's not somebody that you are hiring as staff, even if it's a one-time contract with somebody who is a specialist in that area, it makes a huge difference about the message that you're communicating.
Yeah, and don't let it be your spouse or your significant other or friend that looks over that make sure it's a customer that you're trying to sell to, somebody that's your target market, because they're the ones, there's a guy I follow in marketing, Dan Kennedy. He always said, I don't pay attention to anybody's opinion who doesn't help me pay my mortgage. Their opinions are completely irrelevant. If they don't pay me money, I don't even listen to them. The people that I want to go after and get their opinion are the ones who actually are pulling out their wallet and giving me dollars.
Which I think is one of the big stumbling blocks with businesses right now because of social media and, for example, the big red cup incident right now.
Right.
Everybody's so touchy about possibly offending someone. And you have to remember that whole thing about you're not going to make everybody happy.
Mm-hmm.
The only people you really need to make happy are your customers.
Yeah.
And if you're so worried about what everybody else is offended about or what their opinion is about your business or your product, but they're not even the ones that are buying from you, you're wasting your energy in the wrong area.
I absolutely agree. So what if, just kind of in closing here, what is, if you had some advice or some lessons that you've learned over the years that you could point to and say, that's really something that if I could look back on my life and tell my younger self and give my younger self this piece of advice, what do you think that would be? Something that's happened or you've learned?
Oh, wow. Don't be afraid to try new things. I mean, don't stay inside that box. If you stay inside that box, especially in today's society, you are just going to get passed by and left behind in the dust. So don't be afraid to try those new things. And when you're doing it, stay true to yourself. Remember who you are, because at the end of the day, you're the only person that you can really truly make happy. And if you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's a complete waste of time. And stay informed. Get out there and find reputable sources. There's so much stuff out there that you can read, but really, you've named a few people in this interview, and those are people that you trust. Those are experts, and find those people that you believe in and that you trust and that can help guide you in your process, and focus on them. Don't worry so much about some of the other energy that's out there.
Very well said. Thank you, Calley Anne. I appreciate you being on the program today, taking time out of your day. I am Toby Brockner, founder of V Squared Creative. You can find us at vsquaredcreative.com. Thanks for watching today's podcast. We'll see you next time.